These are 15-round magazines designed with a stainless steel body and a plastic overmold along the front of the body. It comes in a standard black finish and a micro slick finish. The micro slick claiming to have increased lubricity and durability over the standard finish, ultimately increasing reliability. These magazines boast a 50% increase in capacity compared to the standard 10-round Glock slimline magazine. Palmetto State Armory is not the first company to release a standard capacity magazine for the 43X and 48, but I believe they've perfected it. Compared to the competition, you won't need an aftermarket metal magazine release to use these PSA mags. The metal housing on the other aftermarket magazines will tear up the OEM plastic release during live fire. Keeping the original release not only saves you money, but also allows you to use your OEM magazines as well, without tearing them up with a metal release. There are 4 different iterations of these magazines, the original having a smooth black follower and the 9mm caliber printed on it. The magazine release cutout is also very shallow on the original magazines. The second version has the same smooth black follower, but the body was updated with a deeper magazine release cut, showing the metal body through the cut. The third version features a different black follower using different plastic. I believe these are 3D printed and the previous versions were injection molded. The 9mm indicator on this follower isn't as pronounced as the previous models and looks shallower. The base plate is also different on this version. It looks exactly the same as the others, but on the inside it has some different markings. Palmetto State Armory claims this base plate was beefed up and doesn't bulge as much. They all still flexed and moved around even when unloaded on all of my magazines. The 4th version goes back to the smooth plastic follower and the deeper 9mm marking, but this time the follower has a bright red or orange color mimicking the Gen 5 Glock followers. I have several of these micro magazines. I've put over 1,000 rounds through them combined. Now, 1,000 rounds isn't anything crazy, but it will certainly show how they will function and perform. In those 1,000 rounds, I've had some cheap ammo problems, and I've had a few magazine-induced malfunctions. I've had reliability issues with certain hollow point ammunition in my 43X with OEM Glock mags. Not all ammo is created equally. One of the first things I noticed without any rounds in the magazine was the base plate was flexing out, looking like it was ready to blow off at any second. A bit concerning, but I loaded up the magazines and they held just fine, but I wasn't very confident with the play and movement in the base plate. The last thing you want is the base of this magazine blowing off while you are carrying your gun in public. I can't imagine how embarrassing it would be having a bunch of rounds shoot out from under your t-shirt, then hustling to pick up all of your expensive hollow points off the ground. Now you've got a one-shot semi-auto, effectively making the gun useless. With standard use of these magazines, I never had the base plate just blow off the end. In the first couple 100 rounds of testing, I had 5 failures to feed. I initially wrote them off as inconsistent ammo problems, so I loaded them back up and headed out to the range. Same result, after another 200 rounds, I had a small amount of failures to feed. It wouldn't happen with the same magazine on the same round count. It seemed to be very inconsistent. I could go 2 full mags through one of them flawlessly, and then it would randomly get a hang-up. After that range trip, I took them home, inspected them thoroughly, and did some function testing. Just loading the mags up and pushing the rounds out by hand. The case of the round would sometimes catch on the sharp edge of the feed lip, making it very difficult to push out, if not just stopping the round entirely from leaving the magazine. A quick search online showed me that I wasn't the only one having some issues with these micro magazines. The School of American Rifle YouTube channel has a very in-depth, detailed video explaining some of the issues with these magazines and how to fix them. I highly recommend you go watch that video if you have any of these magazines. School of the American Rifle makes great informative videos. Please go subscribe to his channel if you haven't already. None of the magazines I've purchased have had any other issues other than the bulging base plate and the sharp feed ramp. Some were worse than others. I broke down the magazines and filed the sharp edge with a simple hand file. After that, I loaded them back up and tested the functionality. They ran perfectly, smooth as butter, no more getting stuck on the feed lip and scratching up the casing. I took them back out and put 600 rounds through them and had no issues whatsoever. I also purchased an aftermarket metal baseplate from EL Tactical. They completely fixed the bowing baseplate problem. They fit great on the magazines and they still utilize the stock magazine insert, unlike some of the other options available. All of these metal baseplates do fetch a premium price. You're looking at about $30 a piece. That's a whole extra magazine being spent to fix the magazine you've already paid $30 for, bringing the total cost of these magazines to an eye-watering $60+ plus shipping and taxes, probably closer to $70 all in. I don't know anyone who would ever spend $60 on a single magazine. So here's the question you've all been waiting for. Do I trust these magazines enough to carry every day and protect my family? Yes. Would I recommend these magazines to others? Well, it depends if you're willing to do your own testing, evaluation, and even slightly modifying these if they are not perfect. And you also don't mind shelling out another $30 to make them bomb-proof. Then, yes, I would 100% recommend these magazines. They're a game changer. Bringing up the capacity 50% while maintaining the same flush fit magazine is insane. This really does put the 43X and 48 above the competition. You should always test your firearms and firearms accessories before you trust your life to it. OEM Glock mags aren't always perfect, and function should be verified on anything before you seriously need to use it. But don't just take my advice or blindly follow my recommendations. Make your own conclusions, do your own research, and test these things for yourself. If you live in a free state, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want your 43X or 48 to be equipped with standard capacity magazines. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. I do appreciate you taking the time to watch this. If you have any experience with these magazines, I would love to hear about it in the comments. I will respond to every single one of you. Have a good one. Thanks again.